Greetings and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Coletta Meyer and I am the Health and Wellness Strategist at GEHA. Today our wellness presentation is on suicide awareness and prevention. Suicide is a serious public health problem that can have lasting harmful effects on individuals, families, and communities. Every year, mental health organizations and individuals around the U.S. and around the world raise awareness of suicide prevention during September, which is National Suicide Prevention Month. First, I would like to say welcome from GEHA. For over 80 years, Government Employees Health Association has provided quality, affordable health and dental plans designed exclusively for federal employees. It is our mission to serve you with only the utmost trust, honor, and integrity every step of the way. We stand by those who stand for us. Here are some fun facts. We're one of the largest national federally focused medical and dental plan carriers serving more than 1.8 million members. We offer a worldwide network of doctors, dentists, hospitals, and other providers. Our member benefits include many wellness services, including a health rewards program valued up to $250, free biometric health screenings, gym discounts, free weight loss programs for qualified members, and many more. These services show the commitment of GEHA to wellness and living healthier. Our first topic today will be to look at the U.S. suicide facts. Many people have fleeting thoughts of death. Fleeting thoughts of death are less of a problem and are much different from actively planning to try suicide. Suicide is responsible for nearly 45,000 deaths in 2016. That is approximately one death every 12 minutes. But many more people think about or attempt suicide and survive. So in 2016 alone, 9.8 million American adults seriously thought about suicide. 2.8 million adults made a plan, and 1.3 million attempted suicide. Suicide is a problem throughout a person's lifespan. It affects all ages and all races. So in the U.S., suicide is the 10th leading cause of death. It is the second leading cause of death for people 10 to 34 years of age. It is the fourth leading cause of death among people 35 to 54 years of age, and it is the eighth leading cause of death among people 55 to 64 years of age. Women do try suicide more often, but men are 4 times more likely to die from a suicide attempt. This is partially due to men choosing more lethal means to kill themselves. Women are more likely to attempt suicide by self-poisoning. And a gun is going to be the most common method of suicide. Now let's talk about depression. Depression is a disease. It's caused by changes in chemicals in the brain that are called neurotransmitters. Depression isn't a character flaw, and it doesn't mean you're bad or weak. It also doesn't mean that you're going crazy. It is an illness that makes you feel sad, lose interest in things you used to enjoy, withdraw from others, and have little energy. It's more than normal sadness, grief, or low energy. Most people will get better with medicine, counseling, or even a combination of the two. People who are very depressed can feel so bad that they think about suicide. But most people who seriously consider suicide do not want to die. Rather, they see suicide as a solution to a problem and a way to end their pain. people who seriously consider suicide feel hopeless, helpless, and worthless. So a person who feels hopeless believes that no one can help with a particular event or problem. A person who feels helpless is immobilized and unable to take steps to solve problems. And a person who feels worthless is overwhelmed with a sense of personal failure. Everyone feels sad or blue now and then. Those are normal emotions, and we don't want to confuse that with depression. Again, depression is different. If you notice these feelings and they are lasting more than 2 weeks and don't go away, or if you start to notice other physical symptoms such as changes in your sleep, your appetite, or energy, seeking help would be recommended for you. You could start with your regular doctor or a mental health professional. These are things we will talk about later in the presentation. Now let's talk about the warning signs for adults. It is hard to know if a person is thinking about suicide, but you can look for warning signs and events that may make suicide more likely. People may be more likely to attempt suicide if they have had a family member attempt suicide or kill himself or herself, if they have been through family violence, including physical or sexual abuse. They may be more likely if drinking a lot of alcohol or using drugs, if they have attempted suicide before, and other mental health problems besides depression, such as bipolar disorder, anxiety, schizophrenia, any of those mental health problems. Another one is if they are older. So older Americans have the highest suicide rate of any age group. The rate is highest among white men ages 65 and older. And if we're looking at this group, it's the divorced and widow men who are going to have the highest rate. And lastly, veterans and members of the armed services also are more likely to attempt suicide. Some life events may put people at greater risk for suicide. So here are some examples of those events that could trigger a suicide attempt. So changes in life, such as death of a partner or a good friend, retirement, divorce, or if they're having problems with money, the diagnosis of a serious physical illness, such as cancer or heart disease, or the diagnosis of a new physical disability, severe and long-lasting pain. So those who are suffering with chronic pain, that's definitely a trigger. Loss of independence or not being able to get around without help. Losing your freedom can be very frightening and upsetting. Living alone or not having friends or social contacts, definitely that could trigger a suicide attempt. And lastly, any physical disabilities just in general. Now let's look at the warning signs. Warning signs of suicide include someone planning to or saying he or she wants to hurt or kill himself or someone else. If someone is talking, writing, reading, or drawing about death, include writing suicide notes and speaking of items that can cause physical harm, such as pills, guns, or knives. This is especially a warning sign if this behavior is new. If you are talking with someone and he or she says that they have no hope, they're feeling trapped, or sees no point in going on, that's definitely a warning sign. Another warning sign would be buying guns or bullets, stockpile medicine, or take other action to prepare for a suicide attempt, or they may have a new interest in guns or other weapons. If someone starts to drink more alcohol or use drugs, including prescription medicines, or if he or she no longer wants to see people and wants to be alone a lot. So if they are isolating themselves, that's definitely a warning sign. Another sign would be if he or she no longer takes care of themselves or follows medical advice. So again, the lack of self-care. And if an individual starts to give away their things and or is in a hurry to complete a will, this could also be a warning sign of suicide. So I just went through warning signs for adults. Now it's time to talk about the warning signs for children. The warning signs in children, teens, and young adults may be different, and it is important to know the different signs. Depression. Children suffer from depression also. This is not an illness reserved just for adults. These are the things to pay attention to in your children or anyone that you do know. So some of the signs of depression that can lead to suicide behavior in our children include feeling sad, empty, or tearful nearly every day. If you notice they start to lose interest in activities that were enjoyed in the past, changes in eating and sleeping habits. So are they eating more or less? Or are they sleeping longer or not at all? These are definitely signs to pay attention to. If they're having difficulty thinking and concentrating, are they complaining of continued boredom? Other signs of depression are complaints of headaches, stomach aches, or fatigue with no actual physical problems. And does a child have expressions of guilt, or is he or she not allowing anyone to give him or her praise or rewards? Definitely these are things we need to pay attention to. So if you notice one or more of these signs, reaching out for help would be recommended. Certain problems increase the chances of suicide thoughts in children and teens. Other problems may trigger a suicide attempt. So problems that increase the chances are going to be depression, as we already talked about, or other mental health problems such as bipolar disorder or manic depressive illness or schizophrenia. If the child has had a parent with depression or substance abuse problems, if they have tried suicide before, if he or she has had a friend, peer, family member, or hero, let's say such as a sports figure or a musician who has recently attempted or died by suicide, they are going to be more likely to attempt if the child has a disruptive or abusive family life or if there is a history of sexual abuse. And another problem would be if the child has a history of being bullied. Now let's look into some of the triggers. So there are many problems that may trigger a suicide attempt in children and teens. Some of these can include drug or alcohol use problems. The child may turn to drug or alcohol to stop the pain, and then this leads to the attempt. Witnessing the suicide of a family member can definitely be a trigger. Problems at school, such as falling grades or disruptive behavior or frequently absent. A trigger could be a loss of a parent or close family member through death or divorce. If the child is facing legal or discipline problems, that's definitely going to be a trigger. And stress caused by physical changes related to puberty, chronic illness, and or sexually transmitted infections. And if they're withdrawing from others and keeping thoughts to themselves. And lastly, but a huge one, is uncertainty around sexual orientation. This is definitely going to be a trigger for children. So remember, most people who seriously consider suicide do not want to die. Rather, they see suicide as a solution to a problem and a way to end their pain. It is hard for children and teens to think long term. They are really just kind of living in the now. So here are some common warning signs. Again, some are going to be the same as warning signs for adults, but some are going to be just a little bit different too. So making suicide statements, some direct examples of statements would be, I wish I was dead, I'm going to end it all, I've decided to kill myself. Obviously, because they're not always going to be direct. So they could also be a little bit more subtle about it, which would be, everyone would be better off without me. Pretty soon you won't have to worry about me. Who cares if I am dead anyway? Next, they could be preoccupied with death in conversation, writing, or drawing. So if you're looking at their work and you're starting to see more about death and suicide doodling, that can definitely be a warning sign. And also talking about death. They can start giving away their belongings, giving away their prized possessions, so things that they really have held on to, withdrawing from friends and family, or a loss of interest in the things he or she cared about. So are they changing what they care about in life? And having aggressive or hostile behavior. Some other warning signs can include neglecting personal appearance. So again, we're talking about the lack of self-care, running away from home, risk-taking behavior, such as reckless driving or being sexually promiscuous. They are taking unnecessary risks or exhibiting self-destructive behavior. And the change in personality, so such as from being upbeat to all of a sudden being quiet. Their character is out of behavior for them. It is extremely important that you take all threats of suicide seriously and seek immediate treatment for your child or teenager. So our last topic, and most important, we are going to talk about how to take action. Anytime someone talks about suicide or about wanting to die or disappear, even in a joking manner, the conversation must be taken seriously. A suicide attempt, even if the attempt did not harm the person, must also be taken seriously. So, if a suicide threat seems real, with a specific plan and a means at hand, call 911. Call the suicide hotline. Get the police. Whatever you can do, get help. Stay with a person or ask someone you trust to stay with a person until the crisis has passed. Do not leave them alone. Encourage the person to seek professional help. So we definitely want to make sure we're getting them professional help. You don't want to argue with a person. So an example would be, it's not as bad as you think. That's definitely something we do not want to say. Also, don't challenge the person. So an example of this would be, you're not the type to attempt suicide. Definitely don't say that also. One thing you want to get across is telling the person that you don't want him or her to die. Talk about the situation as openly as possible. Some more actions would be to remove all firearms from the home or lock the firearms and bullets up in different places. Get rid of any prescription and non-prescription medicines that are not being used. You can take steps to prevent a suicide attempt, so being willing to listen and help the person find professional help. These are going to be key to prevent suicide. Don't be afraid to ask, what is the matter? Or bring up the subject of suicide. Do not be afraid of that. There is no evidence that talking about suicide leads to suicide thinking or suicide. So again, do not be scared to bring it up or talk about it. We definitely need to get it out there. So again, a key action to helping someone who is contemplating suicide is finding help. You can contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. There are a couple of different ways to do that. You can call 1-800-273-TALK, so talk, or 1-800-273-8255. You can use the online Lifeline Crisis Chat. Both of these are free and confidential. You'll be connected to a skilled, trained counselor in your area. If you want to know more information, all you need to do is visit the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and you can get a lot more information from right on that site. Additional local help that you can look into is your community mental health center. You can definitely get some help there. Your primary care provider, calling them would be a great idea. Look into the school nurse or guidance counselor, and also the pastoral counselor. So if you have any questions about suicide, or if you need to know any more information, this is your lifeline. These are the resources you can look into to get help. I would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation today. Suicide is a serious public health problem that can have lasting harmful effects on individuals, families, and the communities. By recognizing these warning signs and triggers, knowing how to take action and where to turn for help, you can have the power to make a difference, the power to save a life. Thank you and have a great day.